Today, we're diving into a story that turned a dream vacation into an absolute nightmare. We're talking about a sudden explosion of cartel violence across some of Mexico's most popular tourist spots. It was a crisis that left literally thousands of travelers stranded and raised some really urgent questions about safety and security. I mean, just think about that for a second. What do you do when your paradise suddenly turns into a conflict zone? It's a question thousands of tourists had to answer in real time. And this wasn't some distant news headline for them. It was a personal crisis, unfolding in hotel rooms far from home, with flights being canceled and just total uncertainty swirling all around. So what exactly went down? All right, let's start with what was actually happening on the ground, because this whole situation escalated with terrifying speed. Within just a few hours, the scene in several Mexican states, including Jalisco, where you find Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara, looked like something out of a movie. Organized crime groups launched these incredibly coordinated attacks. They set up widespread roadblocks with burning cars and buses, they were openly clashing with security forces, and they basically caused so much chaos that travel just ground to a complete halt. And you better believe the response from foreign governments was swift and it was serious. Embassies and consulates put out these urgent shelter-in-place orders, telling their citizens, hey, stay in your hotels, do not move around unless you absolutely have to, and keep an eye on the local news. This wasn't just a friendly suggestion, it was a full-on emergency directive. And to get a sense of the sheer scale of this, just look at this number. Over 26,000 Canadians were officially registered as being in Mexico when the violence erupted. And that's not even counting all the folks from the US and other countries. We're talking about a massive number of foreign nationals caught right in the middle of all this. So you have to ask, what sparked all this? I mean, an event of this magnitude doesn't just happen in a vacuum, right? Well, it turns out it was triggered by a single, very high-stakes military operation. The man at the absolute center of it all was Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, though everybody knew him as El Mencho. Now, he was the leader of the CJNG, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. And let me be clear, this isn't just some local gang. U.S. and Mexican authorities considered the CJNG one of the most powerful and violent criminal organizations on the entire planet. And this timeline, wow, it shows you just how fast everything spiraled out of control. On February 22nd, Mexican forces kill El Mencho. Just hours, literally hours, later, his cartel unleashes this massive wave of retaliatory violence. By the very next day, international travel warnings are out, airlines are grounding planes. It was a deliberate, powerful message from the cartel, designed to do one thing: sow absolute chaos. So that brings us from the what to the all-important why. This explosion of violence, it actually reveals a deep, really troubling paradox in the war on drugs. It's something experts call the kingpin strategy. This quote from a report to the U.S. Congress, it just gets right to the heart of the problem. A top U.S. general pointed out that even after they successfully took out 22 of the 37 most wanted traffickers, there was, get this, no appreciable positive effect on the violence. In fact, a lot of the time, it actually gets worse. So here you can really see that paradox in action. The goal of the kingpin strategy sounds simple enough, right? Take out the leader and you cripple the cartel. But the reality, well, it's often the exact opposite. When you remove a leader, you create this huge power vacuum. Suddenly, all his lieutenants are fighting each other for control. The organization splinters, and rival cartels see an opening to move in. And the result? It's not less violence. It's often a huge surge of new, way less predictable conflict. This DEA map really shows you why that happens. See, Mexico isn't controlled by just one cartel. It's this complicated patchwork of territories, all controlled by different and often warring groups. So when you take out a powerful leader like El Mencho, you don't just destabilize his organization, you destabilize this entire fragile ecosystem. It's like pulling a block out of a Jenga tower, and it can ignite turf wars that burn all across the country. Okay, so that's the big picture. Now let's get practical. For anyone watching who's affected by this, or maybe you're just planning to travel, here is the official advice on what you need to do. All right, first up, if you are currently in an affected area, the guidance from everyone is unanimous, and it is crystal clear. Shelter in place. Stay inside your hotel, keep an eye on official channels for updates, not rumors on social media, and make sure you check in with family back home so they know you're okay. The number one priority is to stay put, stay safe, and stay away from any visible trouble. Now, what if you have a flight scheduled? Simple. Do not go to the airport. The roads might be blocked and the schedules are all over the place. Your very first step is to contact your airline directly. The good news is most major airlines have already issued travel waivers, which let you change your flight without paying a fee. But you've got to confirm everything before you even think about leaving your hotel. Okay, and here are the key emergency numbers for any U.S. citizens who might need assistance. We'll just leave this up on the screen for a moment. Seriously, having these contacts handy is so important for getting official information and help if you need it. All right, and now for the million-dollar question that always comes up in these situations. What about the money you've spent? Does your travel insurance actually cover this kind of mess? Well, the answer is, it's complicated. So, a standard policy might have something called trip interruption coverage. That could help you with extra hotel nights if, say, your flight is officially canceled by the airline. But what if you just feel unsafe and you want to cancel an upcoming trip yourself? For that, you usually need a special add-on called Cancel for Any Reason. It's more expensive, and it typically only pays back a percentage of your costs. The bottom line here is you've got to read your policy carefully. So finally, let's just zoom out for a second. This whole incident isn't just about a few chaotic days. It really raises some tough, long-term questions for Mexico, especially as it gets ready for a huge moment on the world stage. And that huge moment is the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Mexico was co-hosting, and one of the host cities is Guadalajara, a city right in the heart of the CJNG's territory and at the center of this recent violence. This obviously raises enormous security questions. I mean, how can Mexico guarantee the safety of millions of fans when this kind of instability can just erupt out of nowhere? And that brings us to our final question, the one that kind of hangs over all of this. The strategy of targeting kingpins. It produces these really dramatic headlines and gives the appearance of a clear win. But as we've seen, those so-called wins can unleash even more chaos. So it forces us to ask, is this strategy actually winning the war on organized crime, or is it just changing the shape of the battlefield, making it more fragmented, more chaotic, and just maybe even more dangerous?